Jai Shri Ram, everyone. I wanted to talk today about the concept of detachment or vairagya and my experiences with it and thoughts on it as I've gotten older and grown as a person. Now, when I was a teenager and first came across this concept, I had the kind of knee jerk reaction that most people have when they first encounter this and are not really philosophically knowledgeable or sophisticated, where they kind of think, well, detachment means kind of staying away from the world and giving up on everything and things like that. And obviously, if you look at it from that way, when you're a deeply kind of materialistic, hedonistic person that doesn't think a whole lot about the far future, the bigger picture, and things like that, that's going to be the natural inclination that most people have. And of course, as I learned more about philosophy and things like that, it became more clear what this value actually is. But even when I started to understand what's actually meant by vairagya, that it is actually a positive, practical kind of principled thing and not just running away from problems and running away from the world, it still seemed very unattainable for me because, like the average person, I wanted so many things in life that I didn't have or didn't yet have, and I was really someone that bought into the kind of grass is always greener on the other side of the fence kind of syndrome. And so, even though I understood what Vairagya was from a kind of intellectual perspective, I couldn't really see myself pursuing that value, so to speak. But as I've gotten older, something that I've come to realize is that it's a lot easier to become detached from things if you can focus more on what are positive things that you have in your current situation and what are negatives that someone else may have in another situation. So, for example, people who are not married want to get married, right? People who are married without children want to have children. So many people are going through their life in a certain kind of situation wanting that to change. And I think that one antidote to that, which lines up with this idea of detachment, is just keeping in mind what the negatives are about something that you might want that's not really at the top of your mind, because at the top of your mind, at the forefront of your mind, whenever you desire anything, is obviously the pleasure that it can bring. And, personal experience I have with this is just the process of losing weight. If you've ever been overweight and been someone that really liked to habitually eat a lot of high calorie food that you shouldn't be eating, you keep having this intention to eat less and exercise and lose weight and all this stuff, right? But that momentary pleasure of eating your favorite snack foods or going to your favorite restaurant or eating your favorite sweets and so on, you feel that so strongly that you succumb to it, and then of course you have to deal with the negative consequences. And something that I found in changing, this is one example, changing my diet is, if I look at some unhealthy food that I actually like through the lens of, this is only going to do something negative to my body. Do I really want to do something negative to my body to gain some short-term taste pleasure? Is that really worth it? Obviously, the answer, if you think about it through that lens, is no. And so it becomes much easier to say no to things that you might want, not because you're trying to be this stern, self-disciplined person that just says no to things and is very kind of austere and ascetic and stuff like that, but because you're again thinking about your own satisfaction, but you're just thinking about it in a long-term kind of sense as opposed to a short-term kind of sense. Now, something else that I would relate to that is, let's say, marriage, for example. Now, most, if not the vast majority of people who are not yet married want to get married, right? This is obviously most of that is due to our own biology, and then emotions, and then even cultural expectations and dharma and so on and so forth, right? But I think that, something that's also opened my eyes more to this is spending more time in the working world and making more personal relationships with people that are a lot older than me, that are married, that have kids, so on and so forth. And you realize that actually this isn't really an avenue to happiness. It's an avenue to enjoying a few more things that I don't enjoy now, but also having to deal with lots of other problems that I don't have to deal with now, and having lots of responsibilities to other people that I don't have now. And I think that people in general, when they want something, like I said with the food, they don't really think about that, right? You see a young married, if you're not married, you see a young married couple and you think, oh, it would be so nice to do that, and I want to have what they have, and so on and so forth. But it's because you're looking at it through the lens of you as a person that doesn't have that thing, and you're desiring it. Once you attain it, just like them and many, many people before that, once you attain it, then this becomes the new norm. Now you become very attached to this, and now being away from it causes you a lot of emotional hardship when it didn't really cause it before you had that, right? And also, you're going to have to deal with a lot of problems that you don't have now that, obviously are not on your radar since you don't have to deal with them. And so I think that anything in life, whether it's food, any other kind of habit that someone is trying to kick, or marriage, or children, or any of these other things or maybe even a career change and stuff like that, looking at this idea of detachment through the lens of some kind of long-term satisfaction and peace of mind is really helpful, instead of looking at it through the lens of I have to give up something that I really like, right? The point isn't, at least from what I can gather about, actually trying to apply this to my own life, it's not really about purposely keeping yourself away from something that you like. It is to like the thing less because of some actual high-minded principled reason that's going to be more beneficial for you in the long term. And so you just kind of draw back on your liking of this thing, right? And you can put it more into perspective that long term this is not good. This thing that kind of eats away at me that I have at the back of my mind, that's going to get solved, or that's going to get greatly improved if in the short term I can become detached from and get away from this particular thing, right? And then of course you can tie that in with with this kind of injunction to lessen your likes and dislikes so that you can become a more equanimous person to kind of deal with things very even-keeled and even-handedly, because you're not overtaken by your strong aversions against something and strong preferences to something, because of course, as we all have experienced in our own lives, anytime that you are really trying to keep something in your life, or really trying to attain something, or on the opposite side, really trying to get something away from you or keep something away from your life, you go through all this mental anguish and sadness and frustration and stress and so on and so forth, that if you can develop these kinds of qualities, you won't really be afflicted with. And so that's basically the message that I would have as far as detachment goes, that if you're someone living a normal grahastha life with a marriage and children and a job, or you're trying to live that and you're not yet with kids or not yet married or whatever, you have to understand that vairagya, that detachment, doesn't mean you need to go become a sannyasi tomorrow living in the forest. It means get yourself away from these things that you're attached to, that in the end are actually negative for you and clouding your mind and causing all of these kinds of problems for you. That is a way in which those of us who are not living in an ashram somewhere, just living in a normal kind of environment that we can really pursue this value of detachment. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.